So data validation is incredibly useful. It's designed to optimize user experience, and it literally validates data being entered into a cell. So it wants to prevent invalid or incorrect information from being entered. So where could we use this data validation here in our application? Well, we have a data entry field right here, and we expect the user to enter a value found in the index field, index column. And so if the user enters in 13, for example, it's not found over here, and our VLOOKUP is going to yield an error. So we could use data validation to prevent the users from entering in 13. So go to your Data tab and go to your Data Tools group, and here's your data validation. Your ribbon may look slightly different if you have a larger resolution. So here we're on the Settings tab, and you have your drop-down box here, and this just provides all the different types of data validation that we can use. We can allow them to enter a whole number, we can allow them to enter a decimal, a list. This is effectively a drop-down box. This is the most common type of data validation that I use. We can allow them to enter a date, a time, and again, for all of these, you specify a time between or greater than or less than, etc. Text length, this effectively can limit the amount of characters that the user can enter into the cell. Last but certainly not least is custom. You can enter in a formula, a custom formula that you create. If the formula yields true, data validation will not throw an error. If it yields false, data validation will say, hey, you can't do that because our formula yielded false. So we're going to use the list data validation because we want to make a nice drop-down box so the user can select numbers 1 through 10. They don't have to type. So in your source field, this is where all the magic happens. You can type the list with just text like 1, 2, 3, etc. And here's a nice simple list, very, very easy. Or more sophisticatedly, you can make the source correspond to the cells containing the values that you want to have in the drop-down box. And by the way, I got back into this dialog box by using the hotkeys Alt-A-V-V. And so let's overwrite the text that we've just provided in the source field here. And again, let's use this little button, and we're going to just select the cells that contain the values we want to have provided in the drop-down box. So look at that. Just so simple to make the user experience so much nicer with a drop-down box like this. And also check this out. Let's just say that these values, these index values, are going to change or grow. So let's change this 1 to 11, right? It's an 11 now. Okay, it's not sorted in ascending order, but the list updates when the values in the corresponding source cells in the data validation change. Really, really nice. We'll talk more about that later. For example, if your list should expand, if a user wants to be able to add items into the drop-down box, we can make it easy such that you can add cells down here and they'll automatically be included in the data validation. It's not going to work like that now because we've just pointed the source towards an absolute reference towards these cells, but we'll talk more about that later. So anyways, we have a nice drop-down box here. Let's talk about the error. So if we want to enter into 13, hey, we have data validation, sorry, you can't do that. Okay, so let's do Alt-A-V-V and let's go back in and we'll talk about more about this error and the input message. Okay, first on the error, long story short, is you can specify a custom message. And for the input message, this is just to assist the user in understanding what should be entered into the cell. So when you click on the cell, you get the nice tooltip. I think this is a very nice feature. And then if you enter in invalid information, you'll get the custom error message. Hey dude, you can't do that. So last thing we'll do on this is let's just talk about the custom data validation. So let's just recreate this kind of with a formula. So again, if the formula yields true, the user can enter the value. If the formula yields false, sorry, no, they cannot. And so just in our scenario here, if the number is between 1 and 10, we're good to go. So let's just create that as a formula here. So equals, and so we want this guy to be less than or equal to 10. And we also want E3 to be greater than or equal to 1. Right, so if E3 is less than or equal to 10 and E3 is greater than or equal to 1, we're good to go. That should yield true. So let's just try that. So 3, 5, great. These are all between 1 and 10. 10 inclusive it is because we did greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. Now if we want to do 11, we get the error message. Again, always try to develop your tools with a good user experience. You'll appreciate it, and anybody else who uses your tool will appreciate it as well.